Hello, everyone. My name is Conrad. On behalf of CameraStuff, thank you for joining yet another CameraStuff in the Limelight episode where we interview up and coming and professional photographers in the South African industry. So you get to know them, and we can also have a conversation about current trends in South Africa, inspirations, what gear to use, etc., etc. So tonight we're going to talk to Ohentse Kgarebe. And we're gonna tap into his career, what equipment he uses, his inspirations and whatnot. And so without further ado, let's pull him in. Hello there, how are you doing?
Hi there. I'm good, thanks. And you?
I'm doing perfectly well. So before we get into the interview, so everybody watching, we are building a nice audience as we speak. So if you have any questions to ask, please do drop them in the comment section and you'll see them pop up right there on the right-hand side. So also do follow our guest. The links are provided there in the comment section as well. So Ohentse, what have you been busy with?
Currently I was just waiting for this interview,
Mm-hmm.
and the excitement was just way too much, man. The nerves. Yeah, that's about it.
Yeah, don't worry about it. It's also your first interview, but don't worry, we're going to take good care of you. So before you know it, an hour's going to pass, and we're going to have a lot of fun tonight. So I have a
Yeah.
bunch of questions lined up, but as a reminder, just to reiterate, everybody watching, if you have any questions to ask or any comments to deliver, please do drop them, and we can show them on a screen like this from Lochis from Lochen. Locherenberg. Sorry if I mispronounced that. Saying hi, Conrad. And so if you have any questions to ask, if you want to introduce yourself, tell me where you're from, etc. It's the reason why we do this live, is to interact with you guys. So from Jay, who's a regular now in the live, how you doing, Jay? Locked in, let's go. So I think we can just get started, shall we?
Yep.
So I have my questions here, locked and ready to go. So the first question I almost always start off with is, what initially sparked your interest in photography and what got you going into it?
Okay. My same. Let me say my visual arts started way back in
Mm-hmm.
primary school because my uncle and my big brother were like drawing artists,
Sure.
and it inspired me a lot. And when I finished school, I decided that I'm gonna take graphic design as a course.
Mm.
So, and then I built up my skill level till one day I found out that I need to create my own pictures. So I decided to buy my own DSLR camera in 2017. And then from there, I just fell in love with photography.
That's interesting. And I've interviewed quite a few people now, and I'm almost certain half of them started as graphic designers, but the love of
Yes,
photography eventually just took over. So obviously, with
yes,
graphic
yes.
designing, you have a lot of skills in terms of editing and whatnot, and combining that with a different medium. It's a good step forward. Yep. So it's quite interesting, but many people start off as graphic designers. So 2017, you bought your first
17
camera.
years.
What
Yes.
was that camera?
It was an Nikon D3300.
It's a good step forward. Many people started off with a camera. What do you have now?
I currently use a D7200, but
Hmm.
planning to go for a D850 soon.
The D850. It's
Yeah.
something we have in common. I don't have a Nikon, but I have a Pentax, but shared the same sensor as a D850, and also a
Yes, yes,
Pentax
yes.
J5 that has the same sensor as the D7200. Yeah, so um, some likenesses between you and I already. Right, so let's see in the comments. So Rufus saying, hello there, Mr. H. Something I should have mentioned is that like your alter ego, your photography name is Sir H. Do you want to tell us
Yes, yes, yes.
how you got that?
Um, Um, it's actually from my nickname,
Mm-hmm.
Henny, and it's derived from Ohentse. Like my mom used to call me Henny back in the day, so it stuck with them. So we used Henny. So I thought of maybe doing an exponential name, and I thought of photography names, but I didn't
Mm-hmm.
came there. And I thought of Sir H, and I was like, yeah, one day I'll be the sir of the photography.
Well, I do like it. All right. So, second question. So, in terms of your progress so far, any memorable moments, something that stood out that you could say defined your career? So, any like one or two moments that you think that really propelled you going forward?
Yeah, quite. My first one was actually not photography based, but it is an image I created and it's printed or at the Northern Cape Theatre in Kimberley.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a proud moment because it's something that I really love. And then the second one was the day I won the Nikon contest thingy. I
Oh,
think it was
wow.
the color thing.
Awesome.
Yes, and I won like the seventh. Yeah, I was one of the seven people that won, and it was really amazing.
Yeah, I'm certain people are keen to see what you are capable of. So I'm just going to pop in a slideshow. So this is all of your images, and we'll talk about these one by one in a little bit. But just to give the audience a bit
Okay.
of an idea as to what you're capable of, fantastic, dramatic, very precise lighting as well.
Moody.
I do like these, and I'm certain the audience can also resonate with these. Very expert lighting and
Thank you
great
so
color
much.
as well. And that's you right at
Thank
the
you.
end. I also want
Yes,
to ask
yes.
about self-portraits in a little bit, but we'll get to these images in a little bit. But first, let's get
Okay.
some more questions out of the way. All right. So, in terms of portraits, especially people photography, how do you capture the essence of a person? So, in terms of getting the best out of your client or model and making sure that their personality shine on the day, shine on the image. So, do you have like a
Okay.
couple of tricks to share with us?
The most important thing that I do first is actually do research over the image that I want to create,
Mm-hmm.
from inspiration like Chris Knight, Carl
Mm.
Taylor, Jamie von Venedijk. She's a very excellent fine art photographer, and my photography is basically more to her side and conceptual.
Yeah, I thought I spotted a bit of Chris Knight in your images, especially in terms of the color and the moodiness.
Yes, yes.
How did you set up? Now, obviously, going your own way in terms of style and branding. Like, how did you settle on this particular look?
Um, he's actually my first mentor.
Hmm.
Yes, my first mentor that I saw on YouTube. And from there, I just fell in love with his work and I attended like one of his online courses. And I was just blown by the way he
Mm.
takes pictures, edits, and the way he sculpts light. And referring for the Rembrandt light, he's
Mm.
like a master in my eyes for that type of light setup.
All right. I'm certain people are keen to know what Rembrandt lighting is. So, maybe in a
Yes.
couple of sentences, can you describe to us what Rembrandt light is?
I think he's the best one to explain it. I
Hmm.
might maybe just link a video to his YouTube, then they can watch that video. It will explain it clearly. Then
Mm.
I can.
Yeah, so the Rembrandt light is when you capture the little triangle on one
Yes,
cheek. So you position your light more than 60 degrees, more or less to one
yes,
side,
like more for 45 actually.
45, okay? And yeah,
Yes,
with that angle, it creates like a very
the
light side,
small
obviously,
triangle.
and obviously the darker side. So it just creates dramatic,
Yes,
very
yes.
impactful images. Now, certainly as a person photographer, these are the techniques that you need to learn. Now, so if you want to drop that link somewhere for people to watch, yeah, but just in short, lighting techniques. So you have your Rembrandt light, loop lighting, butterfly lighting, side lighting,
Short, broad.
short and broad, yes. Just in terms of crafting your lights and also sculpting the person's face. I don't know if you have anything else to add to that, because obviously we want to get the person's personality on the image, and using different lighting techniques will just help us do that.
Okay, to get like the personality and the mood
Mm.
going, I'm mostly intrigued by the expressions of
Mm.
people and like the sculpting of the face. So most of my light setup, I try to do like a painting effect with so that it can tell a story, and every
Hmm.
viewer must be drawn to the face actually.
Okay, that makes sense. Just in terms of composition, yeah, composition in terms of how you light your subject to draw
Yes,
the light to the subject's face. Yeah, that's
yes,
very meticulous stuff, and great inspiration to draw from.
yes.
Let's see what we have in the comment section here. Did From Lesego. I saw myself on those images. I can see the profile
Uh,
picture there.
Ah,
And Leslie, who we interviewed not too long ago, has also joined the chats. Lovely work.
thank you, thank you,
And from Danique, hello there. And we are proud of you.
thank you.
All right. So, as I said, we're going to talk about those images in a little bit, but I just have a couple more questions that I want to get out of the way first. So, a
Okay.
bit more in terms of other technologies being used by other people. So, the age of smartphones and social media, where everybody can be a quote unquote photographer, what sets a professional photographer apart? What skills and qualities do you need to stand out in the industry?
Um, as a photographer, I would say most of the clients that I worked with, they want to be shot with a DSLR, and then
Mm,
you get your nice strobe lights, which use a consistent light frequency instead of using a phone, which uses an algorithm to
mm,
alter the pictures and not get a true image from camera like your raw senses. um,
mm.
and for me as a photographer, I feel that when you use that light, sculpting the light and just listening to the brief of the client, it's actually important as
Mm.
a professional photographer and meeting that standard.
Yeah, something you touched on there is meeting the people as well. So to create a formal environment where
Yes,
obviously yourself being a professional and um, yeah, making sure that it's an event for the person. So it's not
yes,
just a casual snapshot where somebody picks up a phone. Like it has
and
to be
then
a
just
start to finish process, a concept,
yes,
a lot to talk about, a lot to plan. I think that is the beauty of photography where it becomes
yes,
a formal professional event.
yeah.
All right. So I think people are keen to see more of your images. Or should I say, get into your images? I'm just going to pop that slideshow in. So what we're going to do here, I just want you to give a brief description as to how you went about creating these images. What gear you used, what inspired you, like any little tidbit that you want to add. So the floor is basically yours. So image number one.
Okay, the first image, it's actually my cousin-in-law, and that day we actually played with light, and I was actually shooting my sister-in-law. And the light setup, I actually placed the light on camera left, and I
Yeah.
used a softbox, a Photex 80 centimeter softbox, with my V1 that I usually
Mm-hmm.
use. And the image is actually a composite because the image was dark, like as you can see, the gray side on the right hand
Mm-hmm.
side it's darker, and then the left hand side it's light, and I just use my compositing skills just to make it more interesting.
All right. So just to confirm, that was a dark background, but you masked
Yes,
around your subject to create half and
yes,
half. I think that's a very
half and
interesting
half.
choice as well.
Yes.
Was it a mindful choice to have the person looking at the light side as
um
opposed to
he
the dark
ac-
side?
he actually came out running for the image, and I just captured that image, and I was like blown
Hmm.
away, and I thought, yeah, it's a nice picture
Yeah, I think it's an interesting choice, to have the light from the left
from
hand
the
side,
side.
but also
Yes,
having the person looking into the light and have the obviously the lighter half on that side as well. So it
yes,
kind of gives the impression of a person looking into the lights and getting that inspiration or enlightenment, etc. That's an interesting
yes, and
choice,
it's
and I
just
do love this
wandering
image.
away.
Yes, very good point. All right, so I have our first question from the Sejo. So, what is your favorite or go-to light setup?
Okay, I don't necessarily have like my favorite go-to light setup. I just use something inspirational. Maybe if I see something in nature and see maybe the light is sculpted in the particular way, then I will just find inspiration from that and try to create it using my strobe.
Okay, yeah. So basically, what suits the subject environment at the time. So you
Yes.
don't have like that one go-to
One
recipe.
go-to, yes.
Yep. So it's all about making use of something that makes sense on the day, which is a very good approach. Now, often people ask, what camera settings do I need to use? Where do I need to put my light? But you gave a
Yes,
very
yes.
good answer. It all depends on the situation and creating something that looks natural and intuitive, that looks part of the scene, and something that can create that storytelling as well.
Yes.
All right. So next image. All right. So, a question I want to
Uh,
ask is, what modifier did you use here? Because I see a bit of a a very quick fall off of light on the face. So, if I may ask, was this an optical snoot or did you flag the light?
I just flicked the light, and I learned
Flag
that
the
from
light.
Chris Knight actually.
All right. So, do you want to describe to the audience what quote unquote flagging means?
Flagging is just blocking light where you don't want it, and just using your flash to point the light where you want it.
All right. Yeah. So, just to confirm, so you can imagine, hmm, don't have something yet I can use. Now, so if your light is here, you're basically just blocking the light
Yes,
and moving
from
something in
reaching
the
the
way.
subject.
Correct. Yeah. So that is I think it's a cinematic term, flagging the light. So that's just to
Yes,
use something just to block the light and to create that nice quick
mood
fall off
effect.
of light that we see in the face there as well. In terms of lighting, how many lights did you use here?
I actually used one light, and then
Mm-hmm.
I used my Godox reflector just to bounce some of the
Mm.
light back into the shadows. I didn't want the shadows to be that dark, but I am a more dramatic person, so I just darkened them a bit again.
Of course, yes. That's also something that I gravitate towards. It's a slightly darker image, a bit more
Yes,
contrast to sculpt the person to add that depth and dimension.
yes,
So using one light and a reflector. So use the reflector just to bounce that light back in to fill in the shadows
yes,
ever so slightly.
yes,
So yeah, it's something I always gravitate towards is people using one light and a reflector. Sometimes you don't need to use 4 or 5 lights.
yes,
It's all
just
about
one
creating
light.
something that looks natural. Yeah.
Yes,
Mm. I have a theory about this. I think it's because our brains are used to one light source, that being the sun.
the
So
sun, yes.
images like this, yeah, looks very natural to us. It tickles the brain in a manner of speaking. All right, so let's move on. Okay, I think this is probably my favorite image. So, any artificial lights used here, or was it capturing a moment in the sunlight?
It's actually in a building. It was
Mm-hmm.
being renovated that time, and I just asked Shonies so that we can go take images. And I actually used artificial light for this one, and it was pointed up, not pointed up, pointed down to her, but
Mm-hmm.
like on a 45-degree angle, just to create that nice fall off of light. And actually, the light spot at the bottom of the image, it's a window that we spotted there. It was like shining the light on the floor, and we thought maybe let me create something and it will give that illusion of light coming from the ceiling
Mm.
hitting on the body and then falling off to the ground.
All right, so to confirm, this was a light placed up very high and aimed directly down at your subject to kind of create
Yes,
this ceiling, what's it called? It's like a dappled lighting, light
yes,
coming
yes,
in through a window
a
or
window, yes,
yeah. So it was very cleverly done here. If you can make a flash, a quote unquote flash image, look like it was used,
natural
like
light,
you use natural light, that's when you perfectly balance the lighting in terms of your artificial light versus the ambient light, but also
ambient
the
light,
positioning of the lights. Yes.
yes.
All right. So let's see what else. Question I want to ask you. So in
Okay.
terms of posing the model and making the model feel comfortable on a day, like do you have any tips and tricks in regards to a specific pose that you want to get out of a model? Like how direct are you, or do you allow the model just on a day to kind of go with the flow and kind of do their own thing?
If she understands what she's doing, then I will let her do
Mm.
that. But if it's someone maybe that's shy or something like that, then I would maybe just Google some pictures on Pinterest and show them and make jokes about the poses.
Mm.
And actually, I'll pose myself and I'd feel like that
I
gayish
was about to
moment.
bring that up. Yeah.
And then they will laugh, and I will be like, nah, it's fine. Look at me and just copy what I'm doing.
That's a very good move. Yeah, people are good at reading visual
Yes,
visual commands as opposed to verbal commands. So if
yes.
you do something yourself as opposed to describing it word for word, sentence by sentence, people instantly
They will
snap
get confused.
with a visual command. Yes,
Yes.
I don't know if you ever experienced this, but often when you ask a model to look left, they look in the wrong direction.
Yes,
So
yes.
it's the verbal commands that often get lost in the translation. But if you point your own head in the right direction, they'll instantly copy it. So that's
Copy
very
it,
good
yes.
advice there. Yeah. All right. So for
Thank you.
all photographers out there, it's a good thing to kind of learn posing yourself and to do the poses on location as well. It's incredibly helpful to your models. All right, so comments here. Super proud of you. So we have a very good audience watching. So all of them being very complimentary of your work. So how was the setup for this shoot? I don't know if this was for this image or the previous image. Do you want to confirm there? And we'll get back to this question. And in the meantime, we can jump to the next photo. All right. So in terms of flagging, was the same thing done here?
Actually, no, I just used a friend snoot and
Mm-hmm.
we got that image. I just darkened everything even more just to make the focus more onto her face.
Okay. Do you want to describe what a snoot is? It's a bit of a funny sounding word.
A snoot, it's actually like a cone which concentrates the light
Hmm.
into a small circle of light.
All right, so it's a light accessory or light modifier that you attach to your light itself. It kind of looks like a traffic cone that
Yes,
you just attach to the front of your light, and it concentrates the amount of light into a spotlight. So perfectly done here, and it's a perfect example what you can get with it. So with the light directly focused onto the face here, it's a perfect example of composing with light. So the
yes,
so your eyeballs go directly to where you want it to
directed
go.
to the face.
Mm. Um, so what gravitated you towards dramatic images? Was it just from the beginning, or was it a case of not many people are doing it? Or was it just something that sits well with you?
Okay, I actually shot a lot of like different types of images, like your high key, your
Hmm.
very bright colors, and sometimes I even made like people's skin a bit more yellow, like Dracula. And
Yeah.
I just journeyed into learning even more about photography, and then I came across Chris Knight, and I learned a lot from him, and I actually derived my skill from his skill set.
Mm. I ask because in terms of creating a style or a brand for yourself, obviously that is important in terms of marketing yourself and also defining your portfolio.
Yes.
Um, Do you think it's good advice to photographers to kind of settle on a particular style or to branch out, doing a little bit of everything?
To me, I think it's more important to niche down your photography maybe
Mm,
to one or two things that you are really good at. Because if you can do like a lot of things, some of the clients out there, like your corporate clients, will actually want someone that has niche down to just this one particular style. Maybe say you're doing product photography and you just shoot candy. They will want you instead of someone who shoots
mm.
Coke, your beverages, your alcohol, stuff like that.
That's a very good analogy. Yeah. So if you shoot candy over and over again, you kind of know eventually how to shoot candy.
How
So
to
if you
shoot
branch
candy,
out and
yes.
do a little bit of everything else, like you can't give one thing all of your time and effort, and
Yes,
obviously building the skill necessary to do that one thing. So if you do a lot of everything, your as I said, your time, effort, and your training is going to be split up into tiny little boxes. So if you
yes,
focus in on a niche, as you said, perfectly explained, it kind of helps you to focus your work where your skill building is required,
yes,
and obviously in terms of marketing as well. So if you know what you're doing, obviously your clients will know what you're doing as well.
yes.
All right. So, question from the audience: what advice would you give a beginner or somebody who wants to follow in your footsteps?
First things first, have passion. If you don't have passion for something, then you have to practice a lot to
Mm,
achieve that same steps or same destiny that I've reached. Um, but if I were to in like maybe advise someone to go on photography, I would actually give them advice to go to school just to understand the basics, the technical side of photography before going on to creating images that they want without understanding the technical side of photography.
All right. So, a couple of things I want to touch on there. You mentioned passion, which is a very important thing. And
Yes,
to kind of touch on to what we spoke before that, in terms of setting a style and a brand for yourself, it is something that your passion extends into. Like
yes,
it's something from the heart, something from the soul. Your style and your branding, etc., is going to gravitate and revolve around that too as well.
yes,
That's a very important point to make in terms of passion, because at the end of the day, it's your work, it's you doing you, and
You,
there's
yes.
nobody who can do you better than yourself.
Then
So
myself,
obviously,
yes.
doing something that is very important to you, and extending that outwards into your photography. Very good advice. So in terms of schooling, it's very interesting because we have a quote unquote school of YouTube with all of the
Yes.
lessons on YouTube available. How important is hands-on teaching, like sitting down with a person and asking questions directly to a person and getting answers for your to you directly, as opposed to the as I mentioned the school, the university of YouTube.
As you previously said, the some people actually learn via visually learning. They want to see the thing working like this and that. They don't want to see like books and stuff. They will get confused. And I'm actually a visual learner, because if you
Yeah.
want to show me something, then you have to show me how it works and how you do that particular thing. With books, there's people for books.
Hmm. Yeah, it's always been my thinking that if we struggle with the practical side of things, you need to do theory, and if you
Yeah,
struggle with the theoretical stuff, you need to do the practical stuff. So
practical
there's a bit
side.
of a relationship between the two. So if you struggle with one, pick up the pieces with the other one, and it's a bit of like
Yes,
a relationship. At some point, you're going to struggle with one half, and you use the other half to kind of um, support the other. Yep. So if you struggle
yes, yes.
with theory, do the practical, get your hands dirty, go out there, experiment. But if you struggle in terms of new ideas and inspiration, get your nose in a book. So it's a circle, go around and
Yes,
round.
yes.
So, do you enjoy the editing process?
The editing process, yeah, definitely. That's like my go-to. But most important thing that I do is I do 90% of the work in camera and then 10% of
Mm,
the work in post. That's how I work every time, every day.
mm. So to enjoy editing, I think that's a big bonus. A lot of photographers really don't like it, but as you said, it completes the image. It just adds that
Yes,
extra, 5 to ten
just that.
percent that the image may require. Yeah, I can definitely see in your work that is that extra special touch at the end with the editing, but obviously the lighting on location and obviously the skills and expertise necessary to grab the image in the first place. That's 90% of the work.
Yes.
All right, so let's jump on to the next image. All right, so it's one of our commenters as well.
Yeah.
All right, so what I find interesting here is the choice to leave out the eyes, which creates a bit of
Yes.
storytelling here. Do you want to describe us a little bit more about that?
Okay. Actually, this shot we did it in like 2 minutes. We were actually
Hmm.
at another shoot for like a corporate shoot for a client for their corporate images. And then I just told Leo, just sit there quickly. I have this image in my mind. I just want to create it quickly, and then we are done. And the decision to place the light at the back and crop out like the eyes with the dark moodiness, it's actually a thing of me just, I don't want people to see me, but they must just see like the skill set that I have, like
Hmm.
my yeah, like the skill set actually, and not
Oh,
actually know
because
the person behind the skills.
hmm. Okay, that's very interesting. I like that story. So, in terms of very directional lighting, which is very difficult to manage, it's one thing using a massive softbox and throwing light everywhere like it's a nuclear bomb, but getting that precise light and
It's
balancing
precise
the
like
light with any additional lighting, it's quite a challenge and requires quite a bit of experimentation and know-how on a day. And I see
yes.
you uh, perfectly doing that. It's very commendable work.
Thank you so much.
So, in terms of lighting and gear used, etc., maybe you can describe more or less where the light was positioned.
Okay. The light was above the client, not actually at the front, but now.
Hmm.
And then I faced it towards me, towards camera, and then I used the snoot just to illuminate the front part of his face, just to
Oh,
give that
clever.
mysteriousness.
Mm,
And I just use it so ever slightly
okay. So without the snoot, the face would have been underexposed as
dark.
well. So just
Yes.
that clever touch with that extra bit of light, that very directional light with the snoot. It gets me excited. I love lighting like this. Yeah, so well done. So just to confirm, it was
Thank you.
a light above aimed kind of
Above
at the
and a
camera itself
yes,
and a snoot directly at the mouth area.
and the
Now,
face,
very, very
yes.
clever work. All right. So let's see. A couple of questions. How long does it take you to edit your pictures?
Um, if I'm doing like a portrait session, I would more or less take like 5 to 10 minutes to edit a picture. But if I'm doing my composites and digital art, I will go way beyond 5 hours just editing one image and
Yep.
getting that image precisely as I want it.
I don't know if you're like me. Like I get a chunk of my editing done quite quickly. Like in terms of portrait work and skin retouching, like within 5 to 10 minutes.
Yes,
But then I spend a very long time just tweaking little sliders, just a little bit
yes,
left, just a little bit right. And when I go away, I come back and it's not to my
just to
liking. Then I
raise the
start
eyes of
over.
it.
Mm. Yeah, so it's get little, well, myself personally get quite pedantic with the editing until I spend like 5 hours on something I should have spent 10 minutes on.
10 minutes on, yes.
But you touched on something interesting, like getting away from the PC just to rest your eyes as well, because your eyes, number one, get used to the ambient light, and so that may
Yes,
mess up in terms of color, or how you perceive color accuracy. But
yes.
also to rest your eyes, because the longer you spend on an image, as just mentioned, the more you kind of tweak and do unnecessary things.
Things, yes, and then ruin the image.
All right, so a couple of questions that relate to one another. So first from TA, as we know these days, it's very difficult trying to stay motivated. What keeps you motivated? And also from Munica, same question. What keeps you
Okay.
motivated?
What keeps me motivated when I'm not shooting, I will do my digital art and then draw inspiration from that. And that's like the most biggest part of me, like digital art. Every time I do something, I think of digital art.
Hmm. All right. So to do different mediums, I think that's a good choice. So photography on one side and keeping your hands busy with digital art on one side. Yeah,
Yes,
that's very interesting because it's so kind of relate in terms of certain rules and whatnot, and obviously
yes,
getting
and
the creative juices going. So
yes,
maybe you get tired of the photography one day, but then you do digital art the next day. But they kind
yes,
of feed one another, like they're not two separate things
two
entirely.
separate,
Yeah,
yes,
that's a very interesting. That's a very interesting thing. All right. So next image. All right.
um,
So talk us through this one.
this is actually a composite also. We shot this
I was
image
about
in
to
town.
ask. It was very, very sorry to interrupt you. It was very well done. I was like, is this a composite? That's very good.
It was actually shot in town, and then I
Hmm.
decided maybe to place the guy in a surreal state, because he
Mm.
was wearing this dark dress thingy with the band. The is it the Duke in Afrikaans? Yeah, Duke. Yeah.
Duke can do, yeah.
So I just decided maybe let me put this man in a surreal place because the outfit itself, it's so how should I say this? It's toned down. So I
Mm.
decided to use the desert as the base of the image, and then just create that nice vibe to the image. It's more like a fine art type of image. Yeah.
Mm. So, commentator here is one step ahead of me. It was a question I was keen on asking you, but I think it's relevant, certainly relevant. So, in terms of digital art and photography, do you find AI making it easier or taking away from the creative fun in the process? I don't know if you got into the new generative AI plugin in Photoshop and played around with that. I played around with it this morning, and
Uh,
it's exciting and scary at the same time. So, I don't
yeah,
know what
yeah.
your opinions on that is.
This AI thing, I'm not okay with it because I've learned Photoshop since 2010.
Mm,
Like from the get-go of Photoshop, and I was like, nah, but this AI thing, it actually helps you to create something, but people use it to create different images, and it actually works by taking bits and bits of other images to create one image. So actually the creativity side, it's not there no more.
yeah. Yeah, it's quite interesting. It's as I said, it's quite exciting and very spooky at the same time. Like I haven't quite fully made my mind up about it, but I'm mostly erring on a spooky side because, as you said, it
Yeah.
kind of takes something away from the creative process. I mean, you can just type in, I don't know, just whatever prompt to kind of add something to your image, and it really didn't come from the brain. It's just
Yes.
casual playing around with something and hoping something sticks eventually at the end. I
Just the
don't know.
computer generating images for you.
Hmm. Yeah, so yeah, I'm erring on a spooky side, but I think more will reveal itself within the next year,
Yeah.
so we can see where we are going. All right. So, question: where do you see yourself going with your photography? So maybe
uh,
if you want to segment it into different time periods. So where do you see yourself within this next year, and where do you see yourself in the next 5 years?
this year I'm actually just looking to grow my knowledge more into this fine art photography genre that I want to dive into. And then next year, I'm actually thinking of going more public, like with my work, like applying for publishing stuff like that. And then within the next 5 years, I'm actually looking to move out of Kimberley and just going to some place where photography is actually a thing that
Okay,
a lot of people want.
understandable. Once you get super famous, hopefully you can remember this interview and kind of thank us in your speeches when you win super awards.
I'll definitely do that.
That's certainly a direction that you're going in. Like your images are awesome already, so it's only going to be a case of going from strength to strength, and
Yes,
we definitely look forward to seeing your journey as well. Which, by the way, just as a reminder, if you guys want to follow our very talented artist here, Ohentse, just go into the comment section. The links are provided, so the Facebook and the Instagram links. And give our very talented Ohentse here a follow.
that's
All
a
right,
belief.
so as a belief. All right, so let's see here. Okay, color grading here, spectacular. So,
Thank you.
do you have any? I don't know, like any thoughts and any information that you want to share, just in terms of color grading, like do's and don'ts. Like, what are your thoughts on it? What is your process like in picking the right color
Colors
combinations?
and stuff like. Okay. I actually, before I edit my images, I will go on to Adobe Color and then
Mm-hmm.
just look at harmonic colors to see which colors will represent the tones nicely, and the skin tone, and the actually the background itself, like the place that we shot there, it was the big hole in Kimberley. It was like this greenish wall and stuff, and I was like, okay, the dark moodiness will give that place a nice historic feel even. So
Mm.
I go to color, I check my color harmony to check which colors will be more harmonic before I edit my colors.
All right, so I have it here on my second screen. So it's going to pop it up. Okay, so this
Yes,
is what is being spoken about, Adobe Color. So you have the color wheel here, and you can find certain color combinations. I think you
yes,
mentioned complementary. So
complementary
these are,
colors,
colors opposite the color wheel.
color spectrum. Yes, they totally
That's correct.
complement each
Yes.
other.
So your subject will most likely need the warmer tone, and
Yes,
your background will typically need the colder tone.
colder
So in
tone.
terms
Yes,
of find that skin tone, so you can maybe do an eye drop on your subject, find that
yes,
skin tone, and then color grade the background in whatever specific blue as well.
yes.
So that just allows your subject to pop out against a colder backdrop.
Colder
So it's
background.
Adobe
Yes,
Color. No, very good advice. Yeah, it's something I use as well, and just to kind of find the correct colors and whatnot.
yes.
But you can do what's the other one I use? The tri colors as well.
Yeah, the tricolors is also nice. And
Mm.
then I think there's one with the A. I'm not sure that of the name. It begins with an A.
The
Anonymous. Is it anonymous?
analogous. So it's kind of
Analogous.
harmonious colors, so colors that
Yes,
kind of
they are all bunched up in like
resemble.
one group.
So if you want to do color grading, learn the color wheel and color theory. So to get onto this app, it's not anything you need to download. Just go to
Okay.
Uh, color.adobe.com. Okay, I think that was very insightful. All right, so gear used and lighting used. What did you use with this image?
I used my Photex 80 centimeter as the key, and I used the Godox, I think it's the 165
Mm-hmm.
parabolic umbrella for the fill, just to fill the shadows. But as I said again, I love the darker tones, so I
Mm.
just darkened the tones a bit
All right, so key light was position. It's
on
difficult to
camera
kind of
right.
describe using hands here, but camera right. In terms of
Camera right,
distance
yes.
as well, how
Uh,
far away was the light?
I think it was a meter away from the
Mm.
subject. Yes, and the power level I just put it fairly low because he's very bright, like he's yellow bone. If I can say that, he's a yellow bone. And if I use like a higher output of power, I would have blown out the highlights
Mm.
and it wouldn't have looked nice. So I just used half power, and then the fill was like half the power of the key light.
Okay. And the fill-in light, I assume, was left-hand side.
Left, yes.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, I do love this image. I know I said the other one was my favorite, but I'm changing my opinion. This is my favorite one, just because of the color.
Yes, and a
Certainly
lot of
pops out
people
here.
ask me for like light setups. I should do like behind the scenes, and I forget every time I do shoots. I just focus on the final product. I just want to give people the final product.
All right, but you mentioned before the live, um, just a conversation between you and I, but you want to start a YouTube channel one day. So,
Yes.
in terms of doing tutorials and whatnot, how far into the pipeline is that? Is that something around the corner, or do you still trying to figure out some things?
Um. Okay. This past weekend, I actually did like a lighting tutorial session with a few of the newbie photographers and professional photographers, and it was actually nice. And I really want to do it like formally now and get to know people more and get to learn more about photography and just show people how to do things, how I actually do things.
Mm-hmm. All right, yeah, stay in touch with us. We would like to help out with that journey as well. So,
Thank you.
sometime in the future, we're going to see you doing uh, YouTube videos and tutorials
Yes.
and whatnot. So, lighting stuff. I'm certainly looking forward to that. Count one subscriber already, that being me, but I'm certain everybody watching it tonight would be keen to subscribe as well.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
All right, so next image. So when it comes to these images, always first question I ask is, how did you get the fabric up? Did you have a couple of people throw it up, or did you clamp it to something on the sides?
Oh, I have Leo, the guy with the shot that we did spoke
Hmm.
about like in a few. Yeah, he was the guy that actually threw the material, and I just
Nice.
captured it. But I did like a composite thingy again there with the
Mm.
material just to extend it even more and just to make it more meticulous, man. Yeah.
Hmm. A bit more extra. So it was one person throwing it.
Yes.
Did you composite two halves into one image? So
Yes.
throw the fabric up one side and
The
then
right
take the
side
photo,
and then
then
the
the
left
person
side.
goes to the. Very clever. Okay.
And the most
So you
important.
don't
Oh,
need a million assistants. You can kind of
yeah.
go work around it in Photoshop.
Yes, and the tripod is my friend. Like
Oh, yes,
we
of
go
course.
way
Yeah.
way back.
So the tripod, very important in terms of compositing work, because if you
Compositing,
stand a
yes.
little bit closer or if you move up and
Just
down the
move.
entire angles and whatnot, it just throws everything out the window, and yeah, then it's just extra work. So if you're gonna plan on doing compositing work, very
Get
good
yourself a
advice.
tripod.
Get a tripod in. All right. So lighting here. Also backdrop choice. We always ask about backdrops. So what was the backdrop here?
Backdrop, it's actually a plain wall. I think it's off like a
Clever.
creamish. And then I just clean the backdrop nicely.
All right. Then the lighting.
The lighting, I used my 80 centimeter Photex
Mm-hmm.
on camera left, and then I used again the 170 S fill, 165, sorry, S fill
Mm,
directly behind me, just to fill up all
okay.
the shadows again.
Okay, so that massive umbrella directly behind you to act as a
Yeah.
fill-in light. That
Yes.
80 centimeter photics. I also have a photics, built like tanks, both ones. It is
Yes.
the Raja one.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, I know Raja softboxes are very nice to use.
That thing fell a lot, but it's still going.
Yeah, it's tough, that thing. All right, so last image. I want to talk about self-portraits. How did you go about creating this? Did somebody help you? And also in terms of capturing images of yourself, is that important in terms of learning about like how your subject may feel on a day? So to learn that empathy, to learn what your subject, or I say subject, how the client may feel like on a day. So to get yourself in those shoes, do you think that's helpful just to kind of you know to get a different point of view during the photo shoot?
Yes, actually, it's important like to do self portraits because you're gonna learn a
Mm,
lot when you go to shoots for clients. Then you actually know how to pose the client because you will be actually practicing it at home and your light setups. And I majorly use my tripod as my go-to for my self portraits and my phone to use the wireless trigger. And then
mm.
the light setups, I just love to play with like different light setups and moods.
Okay. How did you get the focus?
My focus, I used my camera to focus like wirelessly with the camera.
Ah, okay, clever. All right, yeah. And when I tried to do self portraits, I didn't have those fancy gizmos, so I had to set up a broom, focusing on
Yes,
the
yes.
broom, and then sit in the place where the broom was. It took a few tries, yeah. But yeah, just to touch on that topic again, like if you feel what your client is feeling on a day, it just helps out.
Yes,
Now, often we forget, how stressful it can be to have your photos taken of you. So to have that experience yourself, it just unlocks a lot of things.
yes, yes.
All right, so that was the images done and dusted. Thank you for that. So everybody out there in YouTube land, Facebook land, if you have any questions to ask, do drop them in the comment section. I have a couple of more questions to ask. Did-it-did-it-did-it. All right. So, question I have is in terms of working with clients, how do you approach that delicate balance between doing what you want to do versus what your client wants to do? So, your client may have all of these wild ideas, but you want to obviously keep things within your style and your brand. Like, how do you wrangle that?
Okay, the first thing that I do, I would ask them like what is their vision of how they want their image to look, and then I will refer them directly to my website and just kindly explain how I shoot my sense of style, my color grading techniques and stuff like that, and then maybe try to gel our ideas together because as a photographer you are a expert in image capturing, so they're
Mm,
actually coming to you. They don't know how to create that image and stuff like that. So they're actually asking advice from you. So you have to give them like nice advice to say this image won't work out like that. Do this and that. But the most important, you must listen to the brief of the client
mm,
because corporate clients, if they want like a white background like with a steady shot, they just want that. They don't want
mm,
anything else. So you must know if you want to be a portrait photographer or like a more commercial like a fashion photographer, because in the fashion side of things you will have to listen to briefs and stuff like that.
of
But
course.
if you come to like fine art, dramatic portraiture, the clients will actually listen to you because you have more knowledge in that genre.
Mm. How do you make sure everybody's on the same page? So before the photo shoot, how do you send out that brief and like in what format? How do you communicate with the clients to make sure that everybody is, as I said, on the same page?
I actually mostly use WhatsApp. They will contact me via Facebook, but then it will direct them to my WhatsApp account. Then I will do the formal communication from there on and then give links to my website, which is
Mm.
very important. If you don't have a website to show the client your body of work, they won't actually trust you in what you're saying or what you want to do with their images.
Okay, interesting. So, good advice for people out there, photographers, get a website. Not only because of the reasons you stipulated, but also in terms of having a very specific portfolio that you can send out to
Yes.
people, and having it in categories as well. So if
Yes.
you do weddings and newborns and whatever other genres
Get a
of
website.
photography, everything is segmented, so you can send a specific link to people, so they don't need to
Yes.
dig for something within your Instagram profile. And something a bit more advanced down the pipeline is obviously can do better tracking on it. So in terms of
Yes.
people's behavior on the website, if they add to cart, purchase, if they come from Facebook or Instagram or from Google Ads, you can track where people are coming from and
Coming
what their
from, yes.
behavior on the website. It's very important knowing that in terms of marketing, knowing what works and what doesn't work. All right. So during your career, do you have any like tough moments or tough lessons that you experience and something that you think that can aid other photographers as well? So perhaps moments where you kind of had a bit of tough love coming your way, or tough moments that kind of shaped who you are today.
Yeah, I've had quite a few. Like I think it was last year I got a client which said I edit my images way too much, and I was like, okay,
Mm,
I never
mm,
actually edit my images a lot, but it's your point of view. I will never argue with you for that, because you are the client at the end. And yeah, and some of the bad mouthing I get, like my images are dark, there's maybe something wrong with you, things like that. And I was like, it's not about the darkness about the image, it's actually telling a story. If you can
yeah.
actually study art and do a lot of research and stuff like that, you will actually see images should tell a story every time that you look at it. You can watch it, like you can look at the same image for 50 years and still derive like
Mm.
different stories from it.
I don't know if Chris Knight mentioned this term, chiaroscuro. I think that's
Yes.
kind of part of his thing. If I'm pronouncing that correctly, I'm going to show it to the audience as well, because I think your body of work captures this. Let me just quickly grab that. Yeah, so this word's a bit of a funky Italian word, I think. So
Yes.
chiaro means light, I believe, or scuro means dark. So it's the
Dark.
relationship between light and
Light and
dark.
dark.
So if we can look at the images here, that's about playing with lights and darks to create very strong visual
Strong.
composition, drawing your eye exactly where you want it to go, and creating a full sense of depth and dimension. And
Yes.
I think, as I said, your work typifies this. So everybody watching, this is a topic that you can research. So chiaroscuro, I said if I'm pronouncing that correctly, that's
And the
what you've.
Renaissance. That's
Yes,
actually
yes. Yeah, so this came about when people decided that paintings looked a bit too flat, a bit too
flat. Yes.
2D, and so they got the shadows in. So I think you'll agree with me to say that light is important, but obviously shadow is incredibly important as
Are
well. So
very
the
important
relationship
as
between the
well.
two. Mm, yeah, let's get rid of that. Okay, so I think we are drawing the end of our chat. Unless people have questions to ask. So if you're still watching, still have a nice audience going, drop your questions or comments in the comment section. All right, so I think last question from my side. Can you recommend any resources, books, or photographers that had significant influence on you, and what you would recommend to other people as well? So, in terms of books, photographers, platforms, and whatnot, things that kind of helped you out on your personal journey.
Okay, the first one I will definitely tell people to go to Chris Knight's website.
Mm,
He does YouTube videos, and for your product photography and stuff like that, I will actually recommend Carl Taylor because he's a master at his craft. And for image inspiration, I would actually go to Pinterest, like websites like fine art galleries, online galleries, just to look at some of the painters, how
mm.
they use shadow, they use light, colors, and stuff like that, just to create a nice mood and a 3D effect for the image.
Okay, very good answer. So I don't see any other questions here. So this is my actual last question. Any
Okay.
shout outs that you want to give? So people that you want to thank personally, people who stayed by your side with your personal journey.
Okay. The first one will go out to my late dad, because he was like the guy that inspired a lot of things in my life.
Mm,
The knowledge, the wisdom that he left me with. I just go back and think about him and just think, if he was here, he would have told me this and that. And then secondly, my mom, my sister, my brother, and my
mhm.
parents-in-law. And the most important, it's my wife. She's the one that bought my first DSLR camera, and I was like, wow,
Okay.
you actually buying this for me? And I was like, okay, thank you. And she was like, okay, you owe me something. And I was like, till this day I still owe her something.
Oh, yeah. So pay it back in the skill and photography that you do.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's a great reward as well. Thank you for joining. I think that's the end of our
Thank you.
session. As I said, an hour goes very, very
Very
quickly, and
fast.
we're
Yes.
in 57 minutes. It was a fantastic interview, very
Oh,
insightful. Certainly, everybody watching enjoyed it as well. Yep, so I think that's going to be it from my side. I don't know if you know have anything else to say, any final words, maybe?
um, I actually have no words, but if you want to see more of my work, just go to my website. I actually want to post more of my images on my website
Of
from now
course.
on, because of the consistency of color, mood, and
Mm,
stuff like that. And I just want to thank everyone that follows me on Facebook, Instagram, and for the love and support from my clients. I really appreciate it.
perfect. Okay, that's going to be it from my side,
Thank you.
Conrad, on behalf of Camera Stuff. Ohentse, thank you for joining.
Thank you so
I
much.
think the best we can do now is just say toodaloos and good night. And for everybody
Yeah.
watching, same to you as well. Cheers
Cheers.
and good night.